Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's Joel Bear here, and I am back with the main man who hosts the Five Insider. It's not me, it's the one and only Mr. David Ornstein. How you doing? You okay?
Yeah, good, Joel. Yourself?
I'm doing great, thank you very much. I've been put to task here because Dan Ashworth, the sporting director from Newcastle, is apparently on gardening leave as he's making his way. Well, he's going to be working at United really soon, and I think the fans just really want to know what is going on. So we reached out to you to give us the update.
Well, first I've got to correct you, Joel. It's Manchester United, because Newcastle United fans will be annoyed if we refer to Man United as just United. But yeah, Dan Ashworth is moving from Newcastle United to Manchester United. It was really one of football's worst kept secrets because it's been bubbling for quite some time. At least the rumours have. But the official approach has not come until just recently. Dan Ashworth was approached by Man United, Ineos. They had identified him as their top target to become the new sporting director at Old Trafford. They approached Ashworth himself. As I revealed a few days ago, Ashworth informed Newcastle of that approach. And then it was about seeing where things went from there, because Manchester United had not made an official approach themselves. Very quickly, it was clear the situation was untenable because, as Eddie Howe pointed out in his press conference last Friday, if you've got somebody in such a high-powered position inside your football club with access to information and sensitive data and secrets, who is likely to be moving to a rival club, it's not sustainable. He did attend Newcastle's match against Bournemouth the next day, but by Sunday morning, he had informed Newcastle of his desire to leave because of this opportunity at Manchester United. They did place him on gardening leave. So that means you've got to leave the club. You don't have access to your computer, your data, your material anymore. And then it was reported yesterday that Manchester United had now made an official approach to Newcastle. So it will all be about trying to thrash out a deal financially, or he will have to embark upon a period of gardening leave, which has become the phrase in football this week, before making the switch official and being able to work as the new sporting director of Manchester United, which is something that you'll know Rio has been very clear in saying he wants to happen.
You know what? When you talk about gardening leave, I think it's important. I asked Rio yesterday, but I like the clarification from yourself. So he ain't got his laptop. He's still getting paid though, right?
Full pay, Joel.
Full pay. And on top of that, what is this thing about Manchester United needing to pay between 10 million to 20 million for him to be able to leave? And when does that kick in?
Great question, because we're used to transfer fees being for players because there is a player transfer market. There is not a staff and executive transfer market, but these guys are under contract. And so contractual law kicks in. They can hold them to that contract. Like with any company, you can make them stay at home without working for a set notice period within the contract, unless an agreement can be reached with their prospective employers. Now, we don't know the fine details of Dan Ashworth's contract, but it would appear there is a significant notice period. We don't know about maybe non-competes. You can't join a rival club for a certain amount of time. That wouldn't be uncommon within these contracts. And reports suggest it could be a year and a half, up to 2 years before he can work for another club. Suggestions of January 2026. The way to break that is to form an agreement. How do you form an agreement? Well, you might offer money. And that's why we're talking about these figures. Initially, a few days ago, it was suggested that Newcastle wanted £10 million or more, something that Manchester United balked at. They said, we're not going to be paying anywhere near £10 million. Then it emerged, and I reported this as well as Luke Edwards at the Telegraph, Louise Taylor at The Guardian, and a few other reporters, that it's 20 million that they want Newcastle in an ideal world. That's the figure that they've just decided that they would like to get for Dan Ashworth if they're going to release him. And otherwise, he can potter around his garden, pruning the bushes and the like. So Manchester United don't want to pay anywhere near that. They're prepared to wait, and they don't want to be held to ransom, is the word from Old Trafford. That they're not going to give what they deem to be an unrealistic sum for somebody who is looked at as being a long-term appointment. And if it takes a bit longer to get him in, then so be it. And in the meantime, they might bring some other staff in. They've already got existing staff. And it's all about building the structure out as and when they can. Some say it might take ages. Others think that it will get done sooner than we imagine.
Now, when it comes to Dan Ashworth, you've told us about the clubs that he's been at. Can you reel off some of the top signings that he's been involved in?
Well, of course, at the Football Association, he wouldn't have been involved in player signings, but he was heavily influential when it came to player development. And we saw some of the stars of I think it was the under-19 triumph, and different age groups. 17s did well under his guidance too. And many of those players are now starting to sort of flourish on Premier League, on the world scene. We can talk immediately of the likes of, I don't know, Morgan Gibbs-White. I remember he was part of it, Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Many of the stars we're seeing now, your Sanchos, your Fodens, even Bellingham came through that system, a really unique and special talent. Then when it came into Brighton and Hove Albion, the player recruitment has been really impressive. You only need to look at players that have moved on, such as Moises Caicedo. You've got Karu Mitoma there now, Evan Ferguson. Let me think of who else. In Ciso in more recent times, Buonanotte. The list goes on. I'm sure I've missed loads of names. Of McAllister's another one who's gone to Liverpool. Ben White even to Arsenal. I think it's really important to state here that was part of a team effort. They were not Dan Ashworth signings. He was one of the cogs in the machine. They've got like heads of recruitment. There was Paul Winstanley previously, Sam Jewell, who was there more recently, but we've just revealed this morning that he is moving to Chelsea. He's accepted a position there, and Brighton will look to replace him. So at Brighton, it's really headed up by Tony Bloom, the owner, and the chief executive, Paul Barber, and some key people that have not left the club, and the intelligence that whether staff or players come and go, that remains. And so Dan Ashworth did well there, but it would be wrong to apportion credit solely to him. But again, at Newcastle, Dan Ashworth, very, very influential, but a number of others too. And so I think it would be a bit disingenuous of us to put it all on one person. However, it is fair to say that in his regimes, whether it be the England national team, Brighton and Newcastle, good players, excellent talents have either been developed or purchased, sold, and he can take a lot of credit for that. And it's something that Manchester United fans should be really excited about.
Lastly, I wanted to ask, what next for Ineos? I mean, they've already brought in Omar Barada, David Brailsford, Jean-Claude Blanc, all under the new Ineos regime. Who else is next?
Yeah, it's been incredibly busy time, hasn't it? And
quick, swift moves.
Very slick, and they've not wasted time in starting to bring about revolution, you could call it. It depends what side of the sort of fence you sit on in terms of what needed to be done at Old Trafford. But so Omar Barada was the chief executive, seen as a really key installation from the outset. That came in mid-January, and they'll get him in the summer after his own gardening leave period at Manchester City. And he will be in day-to-day charge of operations at Manchester United. He'll report into ownership. He'll take a seat on the board. The board will include Dave Brailsford and Jean-Claude Blanc, but we don't know what sort of titles they will have, if any, unless they're just on behalf of Ineos and the ownership. My information is that they're behind Erik ten Hag, and they like what they've seen in him, and they're going to build forward with him for the time being. Obviously, there'll need to be a conversation in the summer when he'll have a year to go on his contract, plus an option to extend. So there is lots going on in all these different movements and potential appointments, and that means we're going to see a very different looking football and club operation at Manchester United in the weeks, months, and years ahead as they try and restore United to their former glories and bring them back to the level and maybe even beyond where they believe they belong. And that's before we even talk about infrastructure, stadium development, the surrounding area being revamped in conjunction with Trafford Council. I mean, this is an enormous project.
Man, David, thank you very much for that. And it looks like it's a stay tuned for Manchester United and the Dan Ashworth situation. Listen, guys, David Ornstein's details are in the description. Please make sure you like, share, and follow this video. And we will have more news on the Five Insider soon. Thank you very much, David.